Hey everyone, welcome back to Medical Cells U. I'm your host, Dave Sterrett, and today I want to introduce to you someone whose journey has really inspired us. This is a former student of ours, Francesco Russo. Francesco, great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. And I just want to say thank you for all your help and for helping me get this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, your story inspired me. I have a lot of people reach out to me. And honestly, sometimes it's hard, like on LinkedIn. I've written a few posts, and just recently they started going viral. Not all of them. I mean, some of them are like, they get 12 likes. But every now and then there's one that takes off. And you reached out to me, and we talked on the phone. And at first I'm like, I'm not sure. But then you were very serious. You had done your homework, and you jumped into the program. And there's a lot of books out there. But what inspired you to reach out to me? If we could go to the very beginning there, when you reached out to me and sent me that message.
So originally I had been interviewing with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, and I emailed the hiring manager as a follow-up, asking when I should expect my next interview. And she responded that she was going on vacation, but I should reach out to you. And so that's why I found you on LinkedIn, and I did reach out right away. And when I reached out to you, you immediately responded to me and had signed up and became part of your team within that same day. So I appreciate the quickness and speed that you got back to me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reaching out to me. And I was kind of amazed because the person at this large pharmaceutical company that you were interviewing with, I didn't know her that well. I did work at that company and had some brief interaction, but I was kind of surprised a little bit. Now, how did that go? How did she say? I mean, you were interviewing. You had what? Did you have multiple interviews with this company?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I had 2 interviews,
Okay.
and I thought they both went very, very well. And she told me during the second interview that I should expect a third panel interview. And then a few weeks went by, so I followed up with her, and then she sent me that email, and then I reached out to you,
Wow.
and you were honest with me, which I really appreciate. And you said if she said that to you, that's usually not a good sign.
Right.
And then I just talked to you about everything I had done. I had read a few books. All the books said make a brag book, make a business plan, but I didn't want to do any of those things. But I'm lucky that I became a part of your team, and you made me do those things, because the next place I applied for, I ended up getting the job.
Wow. And, just so amazing. I'm not even sure if you want to share where you landed a job, but it's totally up to you. But you landed a job at a great pharmaceutical company, one of the big ones. And
I'm more than happy to share. Yeah, I'm going to be starting with Eli Lilly in July.
Well, congratulations. That's a great company, Eli Lilly, one of the leaders. And from the time you started my program, how long did it take from the time you gave me that
Only
call?
about 5 weeks.
Yeah, less than 5 weeks, because the program hadn't even really started, but we were like, okay, I'm going to get you started right now. Even though the technical cohort started like a week and a half later, I started sending you assignments, and you jumped on them. And I think what that is one, I appreciate the hiring manager mentioning me, but I did think that was maybe a sign that she wasn't moving forward. I ended up sending a message to her as well, and then just asking. And I think it took some humility on your part to say, I need a coach. Sometimes I know the right things to do, right? Like you had read books, and props to you for going above and beyond and reading those books. But you did the work. You showed up. And I think when you went through this journey, you didn't, one of the things that we teach in our program is not to spread yourself too thin. Like people come to me and they're like, well, I applied to all these positions. I'm like, that's way too many. During that whole time, when this company that she referred to me and said, you ought to check out Dave Sterrett's program. I said, we're not going to wait around. There's other great pharmaceutical companies, but you started focusing on about how many places that you applied to.
Really focused on just 4.
Yes.
And I think by focusing and doing more work with those 4 is what set me apart.
Yeah, that's that's a good principle, I think, for our listeners who are just kind of curious about this program. Is I think sometimes there can be this discouragement, and we always teach, your quality over quantity. We don't want to apply to any and every job. When people say, "Well, I applied to this position and they ghosted me," or they just want someone with experience. I'm like, okay, maybe that's true. They want someone with experience, but when you reached out to the company, Did you know the hiring manager? Did you know the product you're selling? Did you know the competition? And I go through these questions with a lot of them. And maybe early on, when you first started this whole thing, you didn't know everything, right? You might have known some of those, right? But to know not only the drug that you're selling, but the competition of the drug, and what is the clinical trial of not only your drug, but of the competitor. Now, our program, for those listeners who are kind of listening in, what was it about our program that, we're new at this. I started this about a year ago. I started kind of informally, and I thought, man, people are reaching out to me every day. I better start charging, right, for this course. What was it that kind of drew you to, one, decide on our program? Because there's a lot of ones out there that have been, some of them more established than I have. I mean, I saw one saying that he's got a couple thousand people in the industry, but what made you choose Dave Sterrett and Medical Sells You?
Well, after I got recommended to you, I went to your profile on LinkedIn, and what ultimately made my decision was just your personal beliefs and your background. You're very family oriented. You wrote a book about God, which I also purchased on Audible.
Okay, thanks.
And those just really connected with me, and that's why I chose you.
Man, well, I appreciate it. I'm curious, maybe for our story, we all have stories leading up to why we get to this point. And maybe you could take us back to your days in college, right? You chose to go to pharmacy school. Take us back to high school and then deciding to go to college. What were you thinking, and what made you decide to become a pharmacist?
So I grew up here in San Diego, California, and then I'm going to school in Texas. That's where I went to pharmacy school, and I moved back after I graduated.
Now, what part of Texas? Where was that in Texas?
I was in San Antonio.
Okay.
And so I moved back to San Diego to be close to my family. And I met my wife in pharmacy school as well. She was from Texas. She moved here to San Diego. We both live here. We've both been a pharmacist for the last 9 years. But what drew me into this profession was my roommate, my college roommate. He's been working for one of the large pharmaceutical companies, and he's been telling me for about a year now I should start looking into it. He think it'll be really good at it. And I finally did. And then it all happened so quickly. I started to read these books. I applied. It didn't go so well. I reached out to you, and then I landed the job.
Wow, that's great. Sometimes people are like, well, if I just had this education, then I would get this job. But here's a great example. You're a pharmacist. You had the education, and it wasn't as easy as a lot of people think. That sometimes, my background was in religion and philosophy, but there's so much more that goes into the interview process than just the degree. However, I will say this. When we talk about our whole process, we do these customized business plans. I think yours really stood out. And one of the things that I liked about it is I tell the students, think creatively. Can you get any recommendations? And so we go after letters of recommendations. We do it really quickly. We give timelines. So we don't just ask for letters of recommendation. When we do this, we ask that person, we give a timeline. I need it by such and such date. And then to make it easy, we offer to write a rough draft. Say, hey, it would be easier. I'll write a rough draft for you. But one of the things that you went above and beyond is you did screenshots of your days at CVS, right? You had all these reviews
I did.
of your time because you were a pharmacist at CVS, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember just looking at that, and, maybe if you don't mind, I'll even share some of that because,
I wanted to set myself apart, and I was like, who gets reviews? As I went to Yelp and Google, and I just found some reviews, and I screenshotted them and I posted as part of the customized business plan you helped me make.
Yeah, I loved it. And you had all these, recommendations and people who talked about how quick you were, how fast you were. And you know what? That tells a story. It tells that you understand the analytics, you understand the science, but you also understand people. And I think when people, no matter if they're a pharmacist or a clinical background like you, and they're trying to transition into this new world of sales, for you to show that you are faithful in the job that you had and you did it with excellence, I think that speaks volumes. Now, how long were you at CVS for?
I was there for 7 years.
7 years. Wow. Okay. What was it like being a pharmacist at CVS? The good, what you liked about it, but maybe some things that you're like, I enjoy this, but maybe not for my whole life.
I was fortunate. I worked at a smaller CVS, so I got to know my patients in the local community. But then COVID happened, and the COVID shots just made everyone very, very stressed. And ever since then, pharmacy hasn't fully recovered. I'm not sure if you recently heard, but Rite Aid, one of the big retail chains, is filing for bankruptcy. They're closing. The pharmacy world in general is just not doing very well anymore.
Wow.
But when it comes to sales, it's doing very well.
Yes.
And so that's what caught my attention, and that's what made me apply. But I think it's true. Even though I'm a pharmacist, it was not easy getting in. I read books. I applied, didn't work out. I reached out, and I became part of your team, and that's what helped me.
Right. And, I know you talked to some of the other reps of who are in the position that you're selling in, and you did some research about what they were making as far as their bonuses. And now you get, not only do you get a company car, and we're not going to disclose all that, but what you received as your payment package and compensation, your sign-on bonus, everything was quite a bit more than you're making as a pharmacist. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yes. And we won't disclose all that. But you came in at substantially more than what you're previously making as a pharmacist. You then took a position for a short while at another company after that. What company was that?
Yeah, I worked for a company called Lincare. So I was at CVS for 7 years, and Lincare was looking for a backup pharmacist in charge that was willing to get 19 pharmacist licenses.
19?
So that means basically, yeah.
Was that hard to get all those licenses?
Each state requires you to take an exam based on their law. So each state's law is slightly different. So all you got to really do is, the federal law, and then you just have to know like the pharmacist to tech ratio for Nevada, pharmacist tech ratio for Florida, and learn all these little nuances between each state. So it wasn't that difficult. I took one test a month, and I was able to get all 19.
And what was something, all of our journey is, is preparing us for the moment. I tell our students, no matter what their background is, if they're a teacher, if they're a nurse, even if they've been in the sales industry for a while and they want to break into a new specialty, there's going to be a learning curve, right? There's going to be some type of challenge. So when you joined our program, you got focused on 4, you said you kind of limited your focus to 4. And we talk about using AI, use Google News alerts, create your top 10 companies, but for all practical purposes, those companies may not have postings, right? So we say for practical purposes, it's good to have a practical 7, but we can even have like a focus 4, right? That we are really focused on. But I also say that once you're interviewing with someone, if it goes well, go interview somewhere else. And even with this company, with Eli Lilly, I remember there was a pause. You thought, I think I got it. And there was a moment where you're like, I'm not sure if I got it right. Yeah. And I said, hey, go interview somewhere else. Go focus your attention somewhere else. So our tendency is to get so wrapped up into the one. And sometimes, we think we have it and it falls through. Fortunately, they came through and they offered you, a contract. And, but tell us the position, like once you see a position, walk us through, how did you apply? Some of the steps that we teach you at Medical Sales U, and we're just going to go ahead and give some of the secrets away here for our listeners, and maybe some will be intrigued and join our program. But what are some of the things that I taught you to do in the program that was a little bit unique?
Okay. So most importantly, you want to get a referral. So when I see a position open up, I want to do it as soon as possible as well. I want to apply as fast as I can, ideally within 48 hours. So before I do that, I look at the company's website, or on LinkedIn, they have an area where you can see who's currently working for them. And so that's what I did. I went to those connections to see who maybe went to the school I went to, the college. And then I happened to have a girl that was in my chemistry class in college that works for them now, in the same position that I wanted, with the same portfolio that I was going to be selling. So I reached out to her right away. Then I found the San Diego.
Now let's just pause there. First of all, I love that you did that. And that's one of the things that we teach in our process is, sometimes you see people on LinkedIn, they have a whole lot of followers. And then you look at the traction of how many likes they're getting on their posts, and you're like, these are fake followers. What they're doing is click, 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 rather than being strategic. Okay. And so what we teach is if there's a company that you're applying to, you want to narrow the focus, right? So you want to narrow it, not just to the company, but specifically you're looking for the position that you're applying to. And then you're looking at several other things. You're looking at one, did they go to the college I went to? And sure enough, you found someone who was in your pharmacy class and you connected on a personal level with that. And guess what? So many of our students, it seems so basic, but we'll be surprised at how many people don't do this basic step. But if you have a warm lead, if you have someone that you can connect with, I mean, here's the truth. My position with one of my last pharmaceutical companies, someone in my MBA course at Johns Hopkins, I was a part-time student, and they said, hey, you really need to apply over here. Love the culture, love it. Okay. And guess what? She was an internal referral. And so way to go for getting the internal referral. The other thing you mentioned was so key. Move quickly. Too many people wait on this. Oh, I think I'm going to apply. I got a busy weekend. No, move quickly. You did it within 48 hours. Okay. So you reach out to people that could possibly internally refer you. How do you get that internal referral?
Luckily, I was good friends with her, so I wanted to also know about the position besides get that referral.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure this is a job I'd want. So we talked just her day to day, if she enjoyed it. And then after we were done and I asked her about the referral, she said she'd be more than happy to. I found another person in San Diego that works, but they're with Eli Lilly, but not as a sales rep.
Okay.
They're a scientist with Eli Lilly. So I just reached out to her too. Just want to know what she thought about the company. And she told me she loved it. I thought it'd be good to just know at least two people and just see their thoughts.
I love that. And that's good. And I'll just comment there too. That's another thing that we teach in our course. And I know someone out there is wanting to coach and they're probably going to copy our steps too, but it's practical. I tell our students, meet people, add people in your city, right? And here's the thing, add people in your city. And if you can get to know them, if you can meet people for coffee in your own city, it's good. And so that's another subset of people that we add are people that are in the city in which we live in, right? So we're not just adding everybody with the company of whatever, Eli Lilly or whatever company you're going after. We're trying to narrow the focus, and we can do that on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So you added her. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was the same. We just talked, same thing about her thoughts about the company. And then I made the customized business plan. I found out who the hiring manager was before I applied. That way on the cover letter, I can list her names, makes it personal. I applied on Eli Lilly's website. And then in addition, I sent her a personal email. And Eli Lilly was amazing with the interview process. You'd interview, a week later, you do the next interview, the week later, you do the next interview. Then I did a fourth, just in-person meet and greet. So, and it was just week after week after week. But most companies, I think it takes a couple of weeks in between.
I love the organization and structure. I think when I've worked with these large medical device and pharmaceutical companies, it's interesting because they expect their employees to have this level of professionalism with their business plans and pre-call planning and the analytics that drive our decision makings that we have. And they put a ton of money into this. But here's the truth. Most companies, large pharmaceutical companies, and I'll say it, in their hiring managers, the level of professionalism that they show in the process is not the same thing that they're expecting of their employees. They wing it. They're not prepared. They're indecisive, and they come to those interviews pretty unprepared. They haven't done their research about the candidates. They are not decisive. They're kind of passive in the sense that they're afraid to make decisions. It's interesting though. They expect us to be so prepared when we have our interviews, right? Like we got to look at the camera. We have to talk confidently. But it's interesting in these interview processes that so many of these companies, and I'm just going off on a rant here, they read their questions. These hiring managers seem so unsure in their questions. It's like they're reading it. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, that would never cut it for a sales rep to talk to a doctor that way. And, but I applaud that you had a great experience with Eli Lilly, and good for you for giving them props for taking, their process seriously, right? In their whole professionalism of interviewing you. And that's something to be learned for. And I would just say all the hiring managers out there learning, this is to be taken seriously, the whole process, just like you expect of your reps to be prepared. And I would say they need to be prepared as well. You stood out in the process. What do you think it was, Francesco, that made you stand out in this whole process?
I think knowing the hiring manager, sending her that personal email, which is what you told us to do, that helped. In addition, as I went through the first and second interview, I went ahead and I started reaching out to more territory managers in San Diego and the surrounding area to network and to already know the team, which is something you emphasized. So by the time I got to my most important interview, the panel interview, that I could actually say I have this connection. I'm already working with so and so. I already know the biggest obstacles in that area, the biggest opportunities. I know the territory. I know I basically know what I'm going to be doing every day from day to day.
You
So if they're
crushed
going to
it.
invest in me, which so I realize how important their job is too to find the perfect candidate. And I just wanted them, you have to make sure they know that if they're going to invest all this time and money into you, that you're going to be loyal to them and you want to go far with the company. And that's what I think I did.
Francesco, you've been one of my best students, and here's why. You just did it. You just took every step that I said seriously, and you worked, you grinded it out. And I'm sure at times it wasn't always comfortable, but you did it, and you met with these people. Another thing we teach is don't just try to win over the hiring manager. You need to keep networking, reaching out to other reps, and it's important, the impression, even if it's just a conversation. You know, they're evaluating you. And you made a great impression on the people that you met. You took an interest in them. You came prepared. You asked your questions. Your customized business plan stands out. And you sent it to the hiring manager. You knew the hiring manager by name before you applied. And so, way to go. You broke in far less than our average. You broke in just under 5 weeks. And I'm so proud of you. This is just the start of your career. You're going to just keep growing. And you know, I'm excited that you can take a little bit of time off here next couple of weeks. Tell me the good news. You and your wife just what did you two just get?
Once I found out the good news about this job, I was able to take 2 months off of work. I left Care. I'm now just enjoying life.
There you go.
And I surprised my wife with a puppy. So
that's awesome.
3 months old. Yeah.
Congratulations. Is this your? I guess this is your first puppy together.
Yes, it is.
What's your puppy's name?
His name's Bo.
Bo. Puppy Bo. That's fun. Great weather in Southern California, huh? A little bit different than San Antonio. How did you handle those hot summers in Texas, huh?
Yeah, actually, I went to school in Texas because I had a soccer scholarship, and I did not know that hot was hot when you woke up in the morning, during the day, and at night. It was a big change.
Wow.
So,
you had a soccer scholarship?
Yeah, we played soccer there, and it was a good time. But yeah, the weather it's drastic. It's a big change, and I was not prepared for it. I should have done more research back then.
I bet if you can play soccer in San Antonio, you can play soccer in anywhere. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Pretty much. Oh, that's great. You still play any?
It's not as much. I did until COVID.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, and I occasionally we get together and play, but not as much.
Well, that's good. So tell us, what are you and your wife, what are you going to do these 2 months that you have off here before you start this new opportunity?
Not too much. Just enjoy, relax. The summer is perfect. My cousin's getting married in Canada, so I'm going to go to that.
Oh, that should be fun.
That's about it.
Well, I've really enjoyed having you in the class. You know, you're one of those guys. I'm like, man, I'm so excited you got a job so fast, but we miss having them. You know, and I know you were working hard because I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, and so sometimes you were just getting off work, jumping in your car, but you were listening. You know, you just sometimes listen in, but I appreciate just your commitment. And this is just the start. I mean, I can see you a bright future ahead of you and you climbing the corporate ladder if you want. You know, some people say, I don't want to do that. It's too much travel. But this is just the beginning. And you're with a great company and they're fortunate to have you. And to the other companies who passed on you, the other company, that's their loss. Really is, because you know, you add the clinical knowledge, and if you have people skills and you have that competition, I mean, you got it from soccer, you have the clinical knowledge to be a collegiate athlete and go through pharmacy school. And for someone to say, well, you don't have sales experience for you to join your program, it shows that you're coachable, right? You join my program. Some guy like me who doesn't have the clinical background that you do, but I teach you some sales and I teach you how to interview well, and you take it to heart, and guess what? You just do it. You just did it, and you got this job. And so I'm excited, and I think we're all going to be learning from you someday because you're going to climb the ladder, and we'll be hearing about you for many years. So thank you so much.
And the last thing I want to say is just like you said, just if you're going to become part of Dave's program, it's not always going to be comfortable. I wasn't always comfortable networking. It's not something I was good at or wanted to do, but just do it. It pays off.
Man, I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's teaching you that you can sell, right? Because when you network with people, it's, there's a risk involved, right? We could get rejected. They could think that I'm too pushy, but guess what? There's going to be a pharmacist that we're trying to talk to someday, a nurse manager who's really busy with a whole lot of patients. And we're trying to talk to this doctor, and they're very busy. Their waiting room is full. And yet we're trying to have a conversation, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. What happens when they chase us out of there and say, we're not seeing reps today? Or what happens if they're rude to us? What if the doctor has some objections over our product? Maybe it's costs, maybe it's adverse reactions, whatever it is, and they're rude to us. How do we respond in those situations? How can we still be confident? And I think sometimes this process of networking, of what we talk about doing, there is a risk of rejection. But if we can all overcome that fear of rejection and keep pressing in, have that positive attitude, I think it's going to pay off. And you never know how many people we're going to just bless and help along the way too. Because some of those people that you reach out to, it's helping them as they guide you. And guess what? They're learning from you as well. So I'm excited for your future. Keep going. We're going to be in touch, and we'll have you back here. Maybe a year later, we'll have you back on the podcast.
That was great.
All right. Thank you so much, Francesco Russo.